Napok óta ukrán és uniós zászlókat lobogtató tüntetők csapnak össze a rendőrökkel Tbiliszi utcáin. Az októberben megválasztott kormány ellen tiltakoznak. A georgiai miniszterelnök elfogadta a felkérésünket, és itt van velünk, internetes kapcsolaton keresztül válaszol a kérdéseinkre. Ezeket a tiltakozásokat a 2014-es majdani ukrán eseményekhez hasonlítják vajon joggal? És Oroszország beavatkozna ebbe a konfliktusba? De mit tesz majd a nyugat? Van hasonlóság az ukrán háború előtti kijevi események és a jelenlegi grúz helyzet között? És a legfontosabb, vajon ki áll a tüntetések hátterében? Exkluzív interjún következik Irakli Kobahidze georgiai miniszterelnökkel. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for accept our invitation.
Thank you so much for this interview and for your interest. It's important for us that our voice will be heard in Hungary, which is a very special, friendly country for us. And warm greetings to all Hungarians who are listening to me.
Thank you very much. Videos flooding social media show protesters armed with various pyrotechnic devices, wearing uniform masks and waving, among others, Ukrainian flags, and they are attacking police officers who respond with water cannons. In the social media, comparisons are already being drawn to the MAJDAN events in 2014. Is this a spontaneous protest? What do you think?
Of course, it's not spontaneous, and I have to remind you that during the last 4 years, we have witnessed already 4 revolution attempts in this country. Of course, this was the 4th revolution attempt, but all these attempts failed because the state is strong and because the state institutions are strong. But we had to face these attempts, and in all these cases, of course, everything was pre-planned. We have the ongoing investigation about these kind of possible developments. There are the foreign-funded organizations who are involved in this kind of activities. For example, in 2022, in June, when the first revolution attempt happened during the last 4 years, the foreign-funded NGOs directly went to the political stage in front of the parliament, and exactly they demanded the resignation of the government. And they also demanded to form a new government with their participation. So the NGO people had to become the ministers. And it happened due to the rejection of our proposal to become the candidate country in the European Union, which was a completely unfair decision. But so these are the examples which show that everything is well organized, and it's a kind of very clear organized attempt to weaken the Georgian statehood. But we stay strong. The Georgian state is very strong, and we stand ready to address all these kind of developments.
How can your government act among these very complicated circumstances? What's the situation right now in the streets, and how can you to make peace among the people and as you mentioned, this pro-Georgia attitude? How can you spread these among the people who are protesting still in the streets?
So it's already very much clear that the Georgian Maidan has failed. There will be no Maidan in Georgia. It was again the 4th attempt to organize the Maidan in Georgia. Some European politicians and some European bureaucrats were directly threatening us with the Georgian Maidan, but it will not happen. So again, this 4th attempt to organize the Georgian Maidan has failed. So that's why we don't see any kind of essential risks for our country. There is the protest still ongoing on the streets, but the numbers are declining, essentially. So it is 4 times less people now standing in the streets than it was 5-6 days ago. So finally, we can very effectively manage this situation. The state is very strong. The law enforcement is very strong. So that's why everything will be very good in our country.
As we see the news, it seems for us that the unofficial leader of the opposition is Salom Zurabishvili, the president of Georgia, and if we are correct, is also a French citizen and was a foreign diplomat before entering the Georgian politics. Her mandate now is ending, but she refuses to leave the office. It seems a very controversial situation. How do you see it?
She's not the French citizen at this moment, but she used to be the French citizen. She was even the French ambassador to Georgia by 2004, and then she became the foreign minister of Georgia. So she has this kind of background, but she was born in France, actually in the family of immigrants. But so yeah, so you're right that some people tried to demonstrate him as a leader of the radical opposition. But I have to remind everybody that her term of mandate will expire on the 29th of December. And of course, this kind of attempt to make her a leader of the radical opposition during these days will completely fail. So she has no possibility to act against the state interests.
Mm-hmm. And one of the trigger points, or the main reason of the current protests and the point raised by Western partners, is that Georgia is allegedly turning away from Europe, and as a result, Brussels has even hinted at potential sanctions against your country. Well, is this a valid concern, or is, what do you think, it's just a political weapon being used against you?
Well, it's a very clear political weapon, which is used by some European bureaucrats and by some European politicians. Our political will with regard to the foreign policy priorities is very clear, and this priority is stated even in the Constitution of Georgia. And it was us, I was personally the chair of the Constitutional Commission, when we reflected this priority, foreign policy priority, on the level of the Constitution. We enshrined the relevant norm into the Constitution back in 2017. So I can reassure you that our will to become the member of the European Union is very clear and is very firm. And basically, I can tell you that all the tangible results with regard to the European integration have been achieved under our government. This is the signing of the association agreement, signing of the DCFTA. We managed to receive the visa-free regime for our citizens under our government. And finally, we had to struggle during 1 year and a half against some European bureaucrats and politicians to receive to get the candidate status for this country. And it's a kind of paradox that we had to struggle for the candidate status for 1 year and a half, and these people who rejected our initial proposal for getting the candidate status are saying that we are not pro-European. So they are pro-Georgian, but we are not pro-European. It's a kind of a paradox, but for the majority of the population, this paradox is very clear. So that's why we have a very strong support from the Georgian society, because they see that we are fighting for our independence, and at the same time, we are fighting for the European integration of Georgia.
Because I see the European Union flags behind you. Is a symbol or a message or a sign?
Sure. It's a clear message that our priority is very firm. So our final goal is to become the member of the European Union. And we are saying very frequently to the Georgian public, but also to other stakeholders, that by 2030, the state of Georgia will be readier than any other candidate country for the membership in the European Union. We are doing our best for that. We are following all the relevant obligations, deriving, for example, from the association agenda or from the DCFTA. Our agenda is very clear, it's very consistent. And finally, we have this very clear, ambitious goal to become the member of the European Union by 2030.
Another common accusation against your government is that you are pro-Russian, or the government is pro-Russian. If you think about rationally, Russia keeps 2 Georgian regions under its occupation, and considering this fact, is it even possible for a political force in Georgia to be genuinely pro-Russian?
It's a kind of common wording for some liberals, so-called liberals, let's say. If you're pro-Georgian, they have to say that you are pro-Russian. If you are pro-American, they have to say that you are pro-Russian. If you are pro-Hungarian, they have to say that you are pro-Russian. It's very common in the Western space to use this wording against all those who try to defend their independence and their sovereignty. We are pro-Georgian. At the same time, we are, of course, pro-European, because, again, our key goal is to become the member of the European Union. And so the ridiculous thing is that the opposition, who used to be in power before 2012, is saying that we are pro-Russian, where yes, under their government, Russia managed to essentially expand its influence in Georgia. It was the economic expansion. They have sold a lot of strategic economic assets to Russia, to Russian companies, and now they are saying that we are pro-Russian. And under their government, Russia managed to promote its territorial expansion and political expansion in Georgia. They managed to occupy 20% of our territories under their government when Saakashvili's regime launched war in 2008. And finally, they recognized the so-called independence of two historic regions of Georgia. So under their government, the current opposition's government, Russia managed to promote its economic and political expansion, territorial expansion in Georgia. These are the facts. These are the results. Under our government, Georgian Dream's government, Russia had zero expansion with regard to economy or with regard to territories or with regard to the political expansion. These are the facts. If you compare the facts, it was exactly the previous government which was doing the Russian job here. We are doing the Georgian job when we are in power, and that's our very clear vision. We have to be pro-Georgian, first of all, and we have to defend our national interests.
And now in America, Donald Trump's election victory has opened a new chapter in American politics, and it's a visible repercussion in Europe, Ukraine, and beyond. However, until the 20th of January, Joe Biden is still the president of the United States. And what do you think, what is happening in Georgia right now? Can it be a kind of rearguard action by the globalist democratic network? And could they succeed in your country, for example?
Yes, so I think that some people in the current administration, in the outgoing administration, are trying to leave a complicated heritage to the new administration in Georgia and in the region in general. So they tried the same in Ukraine with regard to Ukraine, and they tried the same also in Georgia. So we are, of course, very much expecting the inauguration of the new president in the United States. There was a lot of challenges in the U.S.-Georgian relations during the last 4 years, and we are very much hopeful that under Donald Trump's presidency, all these misunderstandings will be left in the past. So we are very much interested to essentially restart our relations with the United States, and I'm sure that it will happen under President Trump's administration.
Okay, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for answering all questions, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Nektek is köszönjük a figyelmet, exkluzív interjút láthattatok a georgiai miniszterelnökkel, Irakli Kobahidzével. Köszönjük a figyelmeteket, ne felejtsetek el feliratkozni a Patriótára, hiszen további rendkívül érdekes élő videókkal és világmagyarázó, világértelmező videókkal várunk majd titeket. Sziasztok!